Today is Sea Sunday, when we celebrate everything nautical, including all those charities such as the Mission to Seafarers, who help all those who work on the sea, especially when they're in times of trouble. And then, of course, there's charities such as the RNLI, which is made up of volunteers who give their time and risk their lives, helping to save all those who get into trouble on or around the sea. There are the sailors whose vessels have broken down, and the walkers who get cut off by the tide. Now there's a phrase, all at sea, and it gets its meaning from the time when there were sailing ships, which often had inaccurate navigational aids, and so when they couldn't see any land, they were in uncertain positions and often in danger of becoming lost. I dare say over the past year, many of us will have felt all at sea as well, not knowing exactly what was happening, what we're allowed or not allowed to do. Many of us may have lost direction in our lives, especially if we were furloughed or made redundant. And without a sense of direction in our lives, we can become lost, both with our lives and with our spiritual lives. But with Jesus at the helm, we can start to begin to know roughly the direction in which we should be going. And all of that starts with following him. And we begin with small steps. We make little changes in our lives, done on a day-by-day basis. Now, many of us, I'm sure, are fed up with the COVID pandemic and with the isolation that we've had to undergo. And we're all itching to get back to a new normal way of life. And we thought it would be starting soon, didn't we? But now it appears that it might not be happening any time soon, as the numbers of new cases keep rising. And so we need to remain patient, which after all this time is difficult. We just want to be able to meet up with as many friends as possible, have big parties, go abroad on holiday, and numerous other things. But we are all still at sea, not knowing quite which way to turn. Our lives, though, in comparison to all those who sail on the sea, is relatively safe and comfortable. Sailors on the whole have small living spaces, often shared with other crew members. There's not much privacy, and then there are the dangers of the storms, and in some areas, piracy. For all of the dangers of being on the sea, as a world would be lost without all of those who man the container ships. Remember when the Evergreen got stuck in the Suez Canal? Hundreds of ships were delayed in bringing much needed goods to countries all around the world. Goods such as phones and televisions, or fruit and meat, furniture and cars. A great vast array of goods. Now, whenever I think about sailors, I always think of that well-known hymn, Eternal Father, Strong to Save. In its verses, we are reminded of the story of when Jesus calmed the winds and the waves, and when he walked upon the sea. The fishermen and sailors of that time knew all too well the dangers that awaited them each time they set out to sail. But with Jesus by their sides, they came to understand that they could weather any storm. Life gets rough at times, but as long as we keep Jesus in our sights, rather like spotting a good place to berth, we will be all right. Now, being an island nation, we have a long, rich history with the sea and with travelling upon it. But even just being by the sea has its charm. It can be therapeutic. The wind blows away the cobwebs, helps to clear the brain. We are refreshed even if we are windswept. And there's also something almost magical, supernatural about being by the sea, especially when there is a storm raging. Many poets over the years have written about the sea and the way in which it calls to them. So today I'm going to finish by reading the poem Sea Fever by John Masefield. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blown spume and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trick's over.